So if you're given a question of 3.5 times 2.25, there's a couple different methods of how a person can go about doing this. The first method is to just change them into improper fractions. So if we go 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7 halves, times 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9 quarters. Now, 7 times 9 is 63. 2 times 8, or 2 times 4 is 8. 8 goes into 63 times. If it went evenly, it would be 8 times 8 is 64, so we don't quite have that much, so we know it can only be 7. And how much is the remainder? We end up with 7 left over 8. So we end up with an answer of 7 7/8. Now, if that method doesn't work for you, or if the question specifically asks for you to model it, there is a way to model it using an area model. So what you do is you draw your rectangle, same as we always do for an area model. You do your dividing it up. I'm going to try and divide this one a little less normal than what we normally do, just in order to try and make putting our numbers on there a little bit easier. So we're going to go 3.5 across the top, so we put a 3, and then we do 1/2. And then down the side we're going to do our 2 and 1/4. I'm going to attempt to do each of the colors or each of the squares in here a different color. So our whole numbers we're going to do in black because it's 3 times 2. We know that equals 6. But now when we start to get into the fractions, things get a little more iffy. So if we go 2 times 1/2, well, 2 is really just 2 over 1. So this equals 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2, equals 1. Now down in this square, we're going to switch to green. We'll do 3 times 1/4. Again, 3 is really just 3 over 1. So we end up with 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 4 is 4. So we end up with 3/4. And then we're left with our final square. And this is the one that people often are scared of or worried about. It's no different than anything else. It's just 1/2 times 1/4. So now we multiply our numerators. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 4 is 8. We end up with 1/8. So as a result, we actually have 4 different numbers. I'm going to write them all using an orange, I guess. So we take our first number, which is 6, plus our other whole number is a 1, and then we put our fractions. 3/4 plus 1/8. So when I go to do this, 6 plus 1 is pretty easy. That's 7. Plus 3/4 and 1/8. If we look at them, in order to add fractions, you have to have a common denominator. And in this situation, we can see that 4 and 8 are our denominators. Well, 4 can be made into 8 if we just multiply it by 2. But when I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I'm going to multiply both of these by 2. Multiply by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. We're not going to do anything to the 1, so he's going to remain the same. And on the bottom, we end up with 8. So now, we have 7 plus 6 plus 1 is 7 over 8. And this becomes 7 7/8. So we end up with exactly the same answer. We got them 2 different ways. If you like a visual method, then the area model works just fine. You have to be a little bit careful when you're adding your fractions. Make sure that you have common denominators. Make sure you simplify when you get to the end. If you do it the other way and you're doing your straight multiplication, this question doesn't require you to do a model, then you have to do your multiplication and then simplify. You can still, if you choose to, simplify before doing the math. So if our numbers had allowed us to simplify, we could have done it up in this here area before multiplying in order to make our simplification easier. This one doesn't work that way, so you have to just straight multiply and then simplify. Remember, when you're working with fractions, your answers must always be expressed in lowest terms.